Hello, hello. Hello, hello. Oh, now you can hear me, right? Alrighty guys, you ready to get started? We've got awesome news to share. So this is a fun town hall. And actually, I'm going to let Tasha do most of the talking. But before we get started, we're going to tell you some pretty great stories about your accomplishments this year. And I just want to thank each and every one of you for the hard work that you do. Some of you I get the opportunity to talk to, and I tell you that when we're out recruiting physicians, we always tell them, if you'll just come do one case here, we're convinced you're never going to want to go anywhere else. So that is because of all of you in this room and everybody that patient, that family member, anybody encounters, whether it's the people that are talking to them about how much they owe or registering them, to the people that are actually providing care. So it takes all of us to be successful, and we truly appreciate you guys for that. We're going to talk a little bit about the financials and hitting those indicators, and there's really only 3 ways that we can do that. The positive way, obviously, is to get more volume in here and to continue to recruit. For those of you that have come to the birthday lunches, you know, we talk about how hard we're out there trying to recruit new doctors in so we can continue to be successful from a volume perspective and a revenue perspective. The other side of that coin is cost containment, and there's really only 2 areas that we have a lot of control over. One are supply costs and one are salary costs. I've always been a supporter here and worked hard to bring more volume in because I like the positive side of that coin. So the more doctors, the more patients that are entrusted to us to care for them, the better off we're going to be in the long run financially. So I just want to say thank you for your hard work and for making this another great year. And hopefully you'll see that in the numbers and how we can all actually share in that success. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Tasha, and she's going to share a little bit about the profit sharing piece and where we hit in 2017.
Okay, but before I get to that, I want to make a slight detour into a communication that you would have received last week regarding staff evaluations. So it is that time again where we are launching the evaluation process. And so full-time and part-time staff, we are actually in your cycle now. Our PRN staff get evaluated as well, but they actually run a little bit behind the full-time and part-time staff because when they're here actually varies. So right now we have the self-evaluations that are open. You have until Wednesday to get that completed. Also just keep in mind on February the 28th when those are due, you also need to make sure your employee health requirements are completed. And on that day also your health streams are due. So you want to make sure those are done. During the month of March, your leaders will be taking your self-evaluation information and doing their assessment on performance. For those of you who are new, just a bit of a word on our merit process. We actually separate the merit process and the actual evaluation conversation. So in the mail, you will receive a letter which will lay out what your merit increase is. The effective date for the merit increases, that would be on March the 12th. You will actually see any merit increases in your paycheck on that March 30th check. You'll then actually move into the second phase of the process, which is actually sitting down and going through the performance feedback. That's March 22nd through April the 16th. And just like what we did on last year, there'll be a policy review for you. So you'll be able to go in, review certain policies that we've pulled to the side, policies that we've had an update to, and you will go into health streams and do an attestation just signifying your understanding of that information. And then again, PRN staff, the evaluation process for self-evals, it's open for you now, but if you do not have an opportunity to do it by Wednesday, you actually have another month to do that. So any questions about that? Okay, then let me jump right into the information that Tracy was sharing. So for those of you who may be new and a refresher for others, we have key performance indicators or goals and objectives that we have on an annual basis. And this slide is always going to be a little bit tricky for you to see, especially with the sun. Although we appreciate seeing it, it's right on the screen. But every year we have a certain number of key performance indicators that we have to meet against. And so what you will see are what our key performance indicators were for 2017, as well as the weight for each of those indicators and what our results were. Really, what our results tie into are the actual payouts that you all receive as staff here at South Lake. So as you can see, we had, 7 measures for this year, and 5 of those measures we obtained max status, which is excellent. So kudos to all of you for that. And then in 2 areas, we had PAR achievement. And so what all that means once you put in all of the formulas and do all of the calculations is actually what you've come here now to see, which is what is the actual payout amount. So just as a refresher, the maximum amount if you're a full-time employee would be $3,000. Part-time, the maximum amount is $1,500. And PRN staff, the maximum amount is $500. That payout would occur if we receive max on all of our indicators. But as you'll recall, there were a couple of areas that we actually hit par. So what that means is that our actual payout for this year for staff, if you are full-time, it would be $2,625. If you are part-time staff, it will be $1,313, and if you're PRN staff, it will be $437. Now, there are some caveats to this, and there's some criteria to this. The first is that if you were hired prior to January the 31st of 2017, you're eligible for a full payout. Anyone who was hired throughout the course of 2017, you actually would receive a prorated payout amount. And that'll be explained once the payout actually takes place. Same for full-time, part-time, and PRN. The other piece that's tied into this is actually meeting the criteria. And so there are employees who could be deemed ineligible for the actual payout if they hit certain items in 2017. And what I mean by that is if an individual was on final corrective action in 2017, unfortunately, they would not be eligible for the payout. If they did not complete their 2017 mandatory trainings by the deadline, there's 2 that we do every year, one that's due the end of February and one that's due the end of May. And if those aren't completed on time, then unfortunately an employee would not be eligible for the payout. If you were new in 2017, it would be your new hire trainings. And then lastly, there's employee health requirements that we have to meet on an annual basis. And if those aren't done in a timely manner, then unfortunately a person would be deemed ineligible. The reason why we make sure that we share this with everyone every year is that there is criteria that we need to make sure that everybody meets that has been approved by the board in order for an individual employee to be paid out. The last piece is with regards to PRN staff. Our PRN staff who are eligible for the payout do have to meet that criteria, but they also have to work at least 1,040 hours per year in order to be eligible. So any questions about the eligibility, the proration, the payout? Okay. If not, I really think kudos are definitely in order again for all of you, because it's really everything that you guys do on a day-to-day basis that makes the difference on the payout. I'm sure everybody is wondering, okay, these numbers are great, when is the money coming? And so the board has already approved everything. What we are waiting for is every year this information has to go to audit. So there's a company that audits our results, there's a company that audits the payout amount, there's a company that audits the eligibility. And so as soon as that company is done doing that audit, then what we'll do is get a communication out to all of you to let you know when it will happen. We've still got our fingers crossed that it's going to be this week. It will be direct deposit, similar to what it has been in the past years. So, last call for any questions. Okay, if not, I'll turn things over to Madam President.
So if you guys are wondering, I've already had to go through my performance evaluation, so I'm done. Jealous? I don't know about you guys, but I get sick to my stomach. I tell these guys, I get sick to my stomach every year having to do it and have to go through it. I don't know if you guys feel that way, but just want you to know I do too. So mine's over, I'm happy. So here's what 2018 is going to look like. There are a couple changes with our indicators, and let me talk you guys through just a little bit about how these indicators occur. The system, so THR has indicators that apply to all of the wholly owned and joint venture hospitals. There are a few indicators that just don't make sense for a specialty surgical hospital. So those then we negotiate and talk through and establish indicators that might make more sense for a hospital like us than they do for some of the wholly owned. So there were a couple changes that happened. For us to get our payout this year, not only do we have to make our financial and quality indicator, but the system will also need to make their quality and financial indicator. Obviously, we contribute to that. They have never not made theirs. Don't tell them I said this, but theirs seems a little easier sometimes than ours does to hit. So I'm not concerned that they're not going to hit that indicator. For us, ours remained pretty much the same. So we're going to talk a little bit through that. Not only is there a system quality indicator or a financial indicator, there's always a quality indicator. And I think part of having us as part of that quality indicator is that it helps their overall as well, because our mortality definitely helps their overall mortality score. So we are going to be counting CAUTI again. So Shelley's got a big job this year to make sure that there's no bugs anywhere. And we're also going to include a total hip and knee replacement measure. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that since it's such a big piece of what we do. So to start with, the system indicators I've already talked through, but then our hospital indicators as well. So for leadership to get ours, we have to make 85% of the measure. For employees, you guys have a 75% measure. That's also consistent with the system. The mortality, it just kind of walks you through how that's calculated, but again, an indicator that's easy for us. This is what our incentive is going to be based on. So last year we had HCAHPS, the overall rating. We generally are max every single quarter in that measure. So it's an area we do very, very well. And I think part of that is our patients are here with us for a little longer, and every single encounter they have with somebody is so positive that we see very much success in that indicator. And we always hit max. So again, that is one of our indicators. The other indicator is on our ambulatory surgical care. Again, it's a shorter period of time that we have with that person, and there are different expectations that they have being an outpatient here at our facility. That was one area that we only hit par last year. So it definitely gives us something to strive for, and looking at where those areas are, we can continue to improve. Our CAUTI measure, and I'll show you how that's calculated and how that tracks. And then also our hip and knee and how that tracks. Overall employee retention is same as we've had in the past. Again, an area that we generally hit max. And our RCBs, reliable care blueprinting, is a lot of documentation, and it happens really for the most part more in pre-op, PACU, inpatient. They impact those the most. And there's now a dashboard where people can actually track whether everything has been documented. So again, I think another indicator that we should do very well. And then the last, again, is hitting our operating margin. And last year we were at par, so hopeful that we're going to hit max this year. And just specifically to talk, the payout will be exactly the same as what Tasha just shared with you for 2017. And I wanted to talk a little bit more and in more detail on the two measures related to CAUTI and on the SSI for the hips and knees. 1, 2, and 3 are the only numbers we can get. There's no way, because our volume is so low, to actually be calculated into a percentage like the larger hospitals are. So if we have 1 infection, we drop down to threshold. If we have 2, we're at par. If we are backwards. If we have 0, we're at max. 2, we're at par, and 1, we're at threshold, which is what happened to us this year. So again, we're looking at no infections. I think that's something we can absolutely accomplish. We've done it in the past. And the same with the hip and knees. It's the same type of indicator where you get 1, 2, or 3. And if you have 1, it's, again, you're at par, threshold. If you have 2, you're backwards. I keep doing that. 0, you're at max. 1, you're at threshold, par, and good grief if it's not in front of me. I was hoping those slides were in there. Sorry. Then you're back at par. So you try doing it. It's like, okay, I got to think about this. I'm really confident, you guys, that we can hit all max this year. I think that we have a lot of good things happening in the 2 areas where we only hit par this year. We've got a lot of new surgeons that are coming in. We've got a lot of new types of cases that bring us really good margins. And I think you guys are doing such a great job of not only taking care of the newer doctors, but doing a great job of keeping the physicians that have been here for a long time happy and trying to do that. And it's not easy trying to blend the next generation in. But another thing we've got to look at is some of these docs that are with us today are going to start to retire. And we're starting to look at who are those backfill opportunities as those docs start to retire and start to age out of practice. Because we want a facility that's equally as strong today as it was 10 years ago. And we're in that challenge and that transition period right now. But I think it's exciting, the doctors that we're seeing in. It's very exciting, the kind of excitement that the newer surgeons have. I think they come out of school and experience this culture and the care and how well you take care of them, and they're just blown away. We take them to lunch and they can't believe what kind of hospital we have here. So you should absolutely pat yourself on the back. I hope that that bonus check is something you can do something fun for yourself with. We love hearing the stories, and it does go a long way if you guys just do a single line of thanks so much for the money, this is what we did, and we bring that back to the board and back to the doctors, and we'll have Laura do another banner for them so that you guys can let them know some of the cool things that you do with those bonus checks. So with that, that's really all we have to share with you guys today, but we wanted to give you some time to ask questions, any feedback, anything that you'd like to share with us. You've got all the management team here. This is your forum and your town hall. Okay, I know you all, and none of you are this quiet.
I have a question.
All right, Margaret.
Is the payout based on if you're just categorized as full-time, or is it based on 40 hours a week?
Categorized as full-time.
Yeah.
Confirmation there.
But did you like how confidently I answered that? That was like when I first got out of nursing school. You just walk in and act like you know what you're doing. Hope for the best.
And I have one more.
Yes. Did you guys hear Margaret's question?
Yeah.
Margaret's question, let me repeat the questions. Margaret's question was 40 hours, is that categorized as 40 hours or you have to, or full-time, or do you have to work 40 hours to be full-time? It's categorized as full-time. So here we have anywhere from 30 to 40 hours as full-time.
The system, we don't do all of the system's KPIs.
We do not.
Because they were pushing that discharge by 2.
We're not.
Okay. Yay.
I think, you know, and that's where we how's a good way to, this is where we try to share with them the nuances of a facility like this. They're doing it because they've got patients that are holding in the ER and trying to get into beds. For us, part of the satisfier with our patients is that they don't feel rushed out of here. We're not in a bed crunch. When we are in a bed crunch, our doctors do a great job of helping us with those discharges and getting patients out. So, no. Those were good questions, Margaret. Did you guys hear Margaret's question? She asked, the system is trying to do it by 2 p.m. discharge, and they have a KPI that's associated with their success rate in discharging patients by 2 p.m. If anyone's ever worked on a med-surg floor, you know how hard that measure is going to be.
The whole system's at 32%.
Yeah. Whole system's at 32% right now. They got a ways to go. How about the back row? Back row. Middle back row. I just want to say the physical therapy center and Gwen sat in the front row.
They don't know yet.
And if anybody did not sign in, you want to make sure you get credit for being here today, so make sure you sign in. If you don't have any questions that you want to ask in a group and you have questions for us, all of our leadership team will be up here in the front, happy to answer any questions, talk through any concerns that you have. Again, this is your time and your forum, and we really appreciate you guys giving your time today. And again, thank you for everything you do. You guys are an amazing group of people. Can't imagine any other place I'd rather be. Thank you. Hey, you guys, come on, I want you to know it's a joint commission year.